Let's talk tulpas and sigils. So this is going to step on into the metaphysical side of stuff, but I think that it has use both in the metaphysical side of tulpamancy and the psychological side of tulpamancy. So, sigils are an artistic representation of an idea, and you can create sigils through several different methods. You can use something like the what's it called here? Because I got this app on my phone. Sorry guys, it's like 6:24 in the morning, and I decided to wake up and make one of these. So coffee's not even done yet. But anyway, it's called Kamea Sigils Free. That's Kamea. If I can remember, I can put a link in the description. It's an app that you can use on your phone that creates sigils through the use of, I think, planetary squares. So I'll get into that. So sigils are artistic representations of an idea that access your subconscious by being a representation of the idea that your subconscious knows, but is created through artistic means. So, think of it this way, right? If I showed you a red octagon, you would just think stop sign, right? If I showed you a yellow triangle, that had curved edges and whatnot, you would kind of know what sign it was. If you saw like red, yellow, green, you would associate it immediately with like a traffic light. Um, things like that. Or even that little yellow standy thing that always says wet floor on it. If I just showed you that blank, your brain would be like, oh, it's a wet floor sign, right? See the immediate connection that you would get from something that's not exactly the thing that it that it actually is. You know, it's the way that our brains make shortcuts with things because our brains work with associations. So, sigils sigils can be created through the use of just artistic methods or planetary squares or something like the rose cross method. There are other methods, but those are the main three that I talk about. So, planetary squares are an arrangement of numbers in boxes, and then when you create a phrase in terms of like spell work or whatever, or in this case, the name of your tulpa, you would translate that through gematria. You guys can look that up. It's basically association of letters to numbers. And then you would, you would translate the name from the letters to the numbers, and then start at that first number, which is the first letter of your tulpa's name translated, and then just draw a line from one letter slash number to the next to create a representation. And so basically, that name is translated into a shape or a collection of lines, interconnecting lines. And what this basically does, like I said, it's kind of like, have you ever written your name and then written your signature, right? Most people's signatures are messy. A lot of times, your signature looks nothing like your name, but you know it's your signature, right? It's that kind of thing. So I talked about planetary squares. Let's see. So with like something like the Rose Cross method, it's an arrangement of letters around in a circular pattern, and you would just do the same thing. Start at the first letter of your tulpa's name and go through just making the lines from one letter to the other, and boom, you have a collection of well, see, I need to drink more of this. You have a symbol that's generated from that. Another method, which is a little bit more difficult, but it's kind of easier for people more on the artistic side, you can take the letters of your tulpa's name and kind of think of how they could be layered over each other or connected in a way that makes an artistic symbol. And they can kind of overlay stuff. So, like, if your tulpa has like a T and an L in the name, then you would kind of the drawing of the upward line and then the cross line. Well, part of that is an L upside down, right? So, and you can even curve the lines a little bit. The point is to make a shape. You guys can Google a lot of information on how to create sigils. There is a fantastic book for this, by the way, which I think is up here. Yeah. Avalanche. It's not even 7 a.m. yet. Don't give me any sass for this. But Practical Sigil Magic by Frater UD. That has a lot of great ideas on how to create sigils. I actually made a video where I pulled from my library. Check that out. Chalk that off the to-do list, I suppose. So that's a fantastic book to look at. There's plenty of other books or even just websites. I'm sure you can Google them on how to create sigils and stuff. So when you have, like, for example, in the shrine, in the one of the other videos that I talked about, your sigil would go in that shrine. Oh, I can actually show you guys this because I'm probably not going to talk too much on the personal side in terms of like what my tulpa's name is and all that stuff. But what I can show you is the sigil, which I actually have on the back of my phone. So the question is, why do I have it on the back of my phone? Well, because when you have a sigil for like spell work or whatever, you would either hide that sigil or take that sigil with you, depending on its purpose, right? So I have my tulpa's sigil on me. Why? Because in terms of the way that my tulpa is made and the purpose of our interactions and stuff, it's a constant thing. So what else do I have constantly on me? Well, my phone, right? So that might be an idea that you guys can think of. On a side note, in terms of a visual depiction of your tulpa's form, you could have a picture on you not only in your shrine if you decide to go with that method. Still suck at pointing at stuff. You could hypothetically keep a picture in your wallet. Why? Because in the event that you needed to interact with it on a kind of outside of your house or whatever, and a lot of times, at least for introverts like me, it might be difficult to get into that headspace when you're out and about and doing things. Seeing a sigil or a visual representation can actually help to activate those things, and that's what sigils do. They activate a connection from from a current state to something else. They allow a kind of a highway to a certain state of mind or a connection, and that's why I have this on the back of my phone. So let's see. I talked about the planetary squares. I talked the artistic method. I talked about the rose crust method. I talked about the carrying the sigils around, putting them in the shrine. So what you can do essentially with a sigil, right, is after you translate the name and stuff, you got to kind of do like a declaration kind of thing. So while forcing with your tulpa, right, or interacting with them, you call them and call their presence in, right, and you're like, hello, so and so. This is the sigil that I made of your name. This is a representation of you, and essentially the way that a lot of the books and stuff, when they talk about activating a sigil, there's a lot of methods to do it. You can gaze at the sigil. I'm actually looking at the sigil on my phone right now as I'm getting ideas here to expand this. But you gaze at the sigil with your intention of, when this sigil is for communicating with so and so, my tulpa, whatever. And as you are gazing at it and thinking about your intention of what the sigil is for, in this case, communicating with your tulpa, that is creating a neurological connection between that symbol, which, hey, kind of just looks like a, sideways hourglass, whatever. But that's actually how it came out on the Kamea Sigils app thing that I talked about. And I associated it with a certain planet and whatever, which, yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. But when you tap into that, when you are staring at it and you are talking about and thinking about the intention behind it, you are making that connection. So the next time that you are looking at it, your subconscious will bring up that connection. So, when I'm out and about and I want to communicate with my tulpa and open that connection really quick, I will gaze at this sigil. Well, then the next time you do that, it's programmed. It's not usually a one-off. You have to kind of do this over time a lot, especially for people that are new to this, to get that connection there. So repetition leads to proficiency. So, when programming a sigil, do it like every night for a week or even longer than that. If you spend some time on it on a repeated basis, then when you need it, you have it. It's like going to the gym or whatever. the more that you do it, the more that you go to the gym, the more that your muscles are going to get used to having to grow, and then whenever you need to lift a heavy object, your muscles are there. Remember, if we don't keep up with certain things, our skills atrophy, just like our muscles atrophy if we don't work out. I'm trying to remember that thing that I was just talking about, but I might have lost it. So in terms of colors or whatever, if there's a certain color associated with your Tulpa, like maybe their favorite outfit that they like to wear, or whatever planet they're associated with in terms of the planetary square that was used to make the sigil. The sigil could be of that color, and if you are keeping a Tulpa journal or something, I would put the sigil in there. Like for example, this is not the color that's associated with the planet that was used to create the sigil, but yeah. So I can take another step and I can talk about sigil scrolls, which comes from a book by Donald Tyson. Yeah, it's a book that's like I dug a million years. I dug so deep on the internet to find a free PDF of it, and it's a book that goes super deep into interactions with spirits, and it's where I got the shrine idea from. But one of the things that is suggested in there is what's called a sigil scroll, which is a more complicated thing that has more symbols and whatnot on it. So what a sigil scroll has is it's got the sigil in the middle, and then it has other representations of other ruling energies or assistive energies. So, like for example, my Tulpa, the purpose behind it was all about constant communication, right? So on the sigil scroll in one of the corners, I have the astrological symbol for Mercury. I also have the symbol for the moon on there because it's about what's the easiest way to say this? The one of the purposes behind my Tulpa is very foundational. Kind of having like a support team in a way. So also with emotions and stuff. So I put the moon on there. You got to think about the astrological associations with the planets. So that's why I picked like Mercury and the moon. I also have 2 zodiac symbols on there. I'm trying to remember which, but I don't exactly remember which because once again, this is more about programming your subconscious. So I don't exactly remember what those symbols are at the moment, but I sure know what it means to me when I gaze at that sigil scroll. So I have the planets. I have 2 planets, their symbols. I have 2 symbols for astrological signs, and then I have 2 assistive energies that I called upon by putting their sigils to the left and the right of my Tulpa's sigil, and those happen to be 2 sigils from the Simon Necronomicon because that's my main system that I work with, and I think that one of those is for organization, and the other one is actually there's one of the 50 names of Marduk from the Necronomicon that brings entities to life. So I thought that kind of really fit with making a Tulpa. I really don't feel like sharing that sigil scroll because it's kind of personal, and one of the other things is whenever you share sigils or symbols or whatever, like when I shared what was on my phone, right? The very fact that I did that means that as you looked at it and your thoughts, that put energy into that sigil. And I kind of didn't want to meddle the waters and the energies too much. So, I wouldn't share your sigil or whatever with too many people for your Tulpa because once again, the more people that are in it, it's like too many cooks in the kitchen, that kind of thing. Trying to think of anything else. I guarantee you if I chugged the rest of this before I made this video, I'd probably have more ideas. But, so, in this video we talked about what sigils are, how to make a sigil, where to put it, the phone or the shrine, right? We talked about the sigil scroll, what goes on the sigil scroll, how to activate a sigil, and you guys can like review this stuff. And if you really don't think I went over it that much, I can always field questions, comments, complaints, concerns, issues down below, or through email at priestofthenecro@gmail.com. Or I can make a second part video to this. So yeah, let's kind of wrap this up here. Sigils are a way of activating certain connections through your subconscious, like a highway from point A to point B with your thoughts. And depending on where you put them, it allows you to access that connection, allows you to put energy towards your tulpa, intention towards your tulpa. Like one of those things that you can do in terms of like forcing, right? When you're directing your energy towards your tulpa to communicate, especially in the early stages and stuff, having a sigil to gaze at while you're forcing is probably a good idea. Yeah. So these tulpa videos are actually a little bit longer than my other ones, which I think is kind of cool because it demonstrates I got a lot to talk about. In terms of my books and stuff, I will probably eventually make a book on Tulpamancy, both on the psychological and meta side, once I kind of get a little bit more ebb and flow to my life here. So speaking of which, so if you guys are interested in any more things on Tulpamancy, I will be releasing more videos. I do have a playlist on Tulpamancy, which could be where you have found this video. I also have a general magic playlist where you can learn basic skills in magic. I have a Necronomicon studies playlist where you can learn how to work with the Simon Necronomicon. You guys can always email me at priestofthenecro@gmail.com for any questions in magic, Tulpamancy, the Necronomicon, stuff like that. And also I have random video playlists for when I find funny or interesting stuff. We also have a playlist on astrology and herbalism, which my fiance plays into whenever she has the time or motivation to do that kind of stuff. And if you are interested in learning more about magic and psychology and the way that they work together in general, so I have several books. Magical Theater, which is the one up there above the stereo in blue, talks about magic and psychology and where they overlap and how they interplay. I also have Magical Mechanics, which is my take on how magic works within the confines of our universe by exploring magic and science. I also have The Guide to the Spheres and Beyond, which is a gate-walking workbook for those that want to go through the Simon Necronomicon gate-walking system. I also have my awesome created sigil method, which is called Handy Sigil Magic. That I don't have a copy of the book. I believe that's upstairs. Why does this always happen to me? But if you want to learn how to activate sigils through physical movement and visualization, Handy Sigil Magic is a book for you. You can find any of these books on Amazon.com just by searching their titles. If you guys have any trouble finding them, you can always email me at priestofthenecro@gmail.com. So let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it in the comments. Send me an email. Any of that stuff. And, yeah. Good hunting.